Hi, this is Kathy with Rocks, Fossils, and Minerals. Oh my. And my cat decided to join us on the table here. He's moving. He's just curious. I don't think he's ever seen these out of my case, so he's like, wow. But these are septarian nodules, and they're one of my favorite rocks, fossils. They've got the minerals, they've got the fossils, they've got the rock, and basically, from my understanding and my reading, they are mud balls that dried and cracked, and then they dried, they cracked, and then they were back in the sea and got sediments inside of them, calcite, and some kind of dying animal probably inside of them, and formed the calcite. And they're in many parts of the world. Morocco, from what I understand, has some of the deeper, darker, druzy ones like this. And Idaho, and there's even places in Texas and that you can find them. These, I bought them all. I didn't find any of them. And my cat, his name is Boo. I guess he's going to help us today. But anyway, let's get to it. These are polished pieces. They've been cut and polished. And that's like the outside of it right there. And they've polished all around. That's like the mud fossil there. And then the aragonite, or the darker reddish brown. And of course the calcite in the middle. And this one, they showed just the beauty of the calcite in the middle. But it's a pretty amazing piece. It's one of the smaller ones I had. And I bought them from this wonderful couple, Ned and Jeannie Fitchin. I'm going to give you a shout out because they found them themselves, and Mr. Ned polished them. And he did a wonderful job in polishing them. They're so beautiful. And here's another big old septarian. It's like I can't get it far away to get a good look at the whole thing. But here's that piece. Let me see if I can. There we go. I'm sorry, I was zoomed in and I didn't even realize it. Here's that big slice. And it's got all the rhyolite and then the calcite in the middle. This one intrigued me because it has some darker calcite, and in some light you can see it. It looks kind of green, and I was kind of fascinated as to why it would be that color. What mineral would happen during its formation to give it a darker color like that. You see the edges, you can see where they cut it. And this isn't polished on this side, but you can see how pretty the patterns are. It's still smooth, it's just not a high polish. If you hear my cat, it's probably because he wants to go out. I've now locked him in. Hold on, Boo. And here's one of the few pieces I have that have the dark druzy on them. This is a septarian piece. You see the huge amounts of aragonite on it. It's beautiful. But turn it over and it's got that dark druzy, and it's got a vug or a little cavern in there of all the dark druzys. So instead of that bright yellow calcite, it's got this dark black druzy. And it looks like part of the rhyolite just crystallized inside rather than having some kind of calcite in there. But I like these. From what I understand, what I've read, most of the darker druzy ones come from Madagascar. I don't know that they're found anywhere else. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but I don't know much about some geology in different parts of the country. Here's another little septarian. It's an egg, and it has the dark druzy in the middle. and on the side. It's just kind of neat the way it forms. Then you get this, from my understanding, is also a septarian. They call them like lightning stones, and this one has been cut open and polished. It's pretty interesting. Let me try to zoom in on it. Ah, there you go. And you can see some of the calcite. But the color patterns are amazing. There's almost like a little bit of a purple here. It's really a neat pattern. But when you close them, would you know that that was a little septarian? I would not. And when they find them, Michigan, I think it is, they call them lightning stones. I don't think that's what this is, but interesting nonetheless. Look at that little pattern right there where my finger was. It's more septarian-ish. And then I'm going to show you these smaller ones first so I can move them and then put the big ones in view. Here's a nice little section of one. It's been polished all the way around, and you can see that aragonite, the brown stripes, and that fossilized mud, and then the calcite that grew inside. There was definitely some kind of little sea creature died in there to make all this. But it's pretty. It's very well polished and thought out in how it was cut. And here's the outside of it. It just looks like a ball of mud on the outside. I never thought a ball of mud being fossilized could be so interesting. But they are. At least to me. Let me bring the big boy in here. I'm going to have to move my camera a little bit. And, oh my goodness. I'm going to have to put that piece back here. Here's the big one. He's huge. Very, very big. And it looks like on the other side, they just cracked it open to see what was going to be inside. Found that there was some nice calcite in there. And then used it to prop it up. And then here you go. It's really pretty, beautiful amounts of calcite in there. The polish is awesome. And the pattern is really good too. It's like in another little world in there. That's how I usually find them, in big balls, and then they cut them open. But some of them can get pretty funky. And I say that because I got this other piece. And it is reminding me of a big fossilized dinosaur egg that got cracked open. That's what it reminds me of. And there she is. Oh my goodness. And there it is. Just like that. But it looks like the mud ball was crumbling at some point, because you can see where it's kind of imploding on itself somehow in the formation, but you can still see the aragonite and the beautiful calcite in there. Here's the bottom. You can really see the patterns there. I don't know if that part was truly the bottom or whether it got cracked off. I don't know. It's a pretty interesting piece. Kind of hard to hold this up with one hand. As you see on the top where it looks like it could have been layers coming off. But you can see right there, there's some aragonite. See right here? That's actually aragonite. That's a dark color. And then there also. And you can see all the aragonite. It just formed all funky. I love it. Unique and funky pieces. I love it. And look at inside of that cavern of calcite crystals. Wow. And I was so excited to finally get into this video because I've been thinking about what I've wanted to do. Haven't posted in a while. And I finally said, oh, I got to do septarian. Septarian, septarian. Kept going through my head. So there's the septarian. And it's just pretty neat how that one formed like a dinosaur egg. But let me zoom out. I have one more little piece, and it's pretty neat. It's also got all the mud. You can see the color. And you see all the aragonite. Is it rhyolite? I'm not sure. But then some of that calcite looks pretty light. Then here's your calcite. Oops. Got way too close to the camera. So look at that. Anyway, this is Kathy with Rocks, Fossils, and Minerals. Oh my. It's starting to get noisy in my living room, so I'm going to cut this short. Thank you for joining me.